Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for choosing us today to allow us to be part of your day. Living walls, Holly, but we're going to talk about that in a moment. But first, a message from our good friends at Farm Defense that has products to help you when you harvest and garden or farm.
Yeah, farm and garden, the ultimate comfort. Farmers Defense has lightweight and durable sleeves made to protect you against the elements while farming. Farmer sleeves offer unparalleled protection of arms and skin for any farmer, gardener, or outdoor worker. Say goodbye to irritated skin and sunburns in the garden. Their sleeves offer cooling comfort and protection against the elements outdoors. An alternative to thick clothing, Farmers Defense is made of wicking material with UBF protection, factor 50 plus to protect you from allergens and scratches. To find all of their great products and more, you can visit farmersdefense.com. Joey wore his Farmers Defense hat in the garden, and he really likes it.
Yeah, it keeps your head from baking in the sun and your shoulders as well. Living walls, and when you hear the term, it can mean many different different types of things. We're going to talk about both of them, a physical living wall or a barrier and a living wall that you create and hang on a fence or a building. Right.
So you can build indoor living walls or create indoor living walls where you put like quote unquote office plants. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I think maybe we should talk about that in the fall. But as far as living wall here, we're talking about an outdoor living plant where you're typically putting annual plants. And what you want to consider there, this is something that you may put on a fence outside in your home or outside of your home, or just literally like the side of your house, or maybe you build something to put it there as like a privacy type of thing too, with some posts and some growing cups or growing containers. So first thing you want to consider is where to put it. Where's the sun? Or maybe you specifically like certain shade plants and you don't have a shady spot to plant them in the ground or like a raised bed. You could do like a living wall.
Okay. And when we can hang this on a fence, we can hang this. There's massive bags or sheets that have pockets in which you can plant in, and they will cascade down, whether it's a vine or a bush plant in your living wall. And
you can just do annuals too.
Well, true, yeah, you can do annuals, and you can have it have irrigation set up on it, and you can just plant it, walk away, and forget it. Very easy to do.
There's a lot of guides online that show how to DIY it, and you can also, again, Joy had mentioned like there's, I think they're just kind of like like a cloth type thing. Maybe it's like
a fabric. Yeah, it's a fabric with pockets.
But there's also ones that have the little grow cups.
Correct. It is a pots. Framework where the cups lock in, and then the plants grow at an angle.
So there's things to consider there, and how much space do you want? One that's going to you might think, okay, 6x4, that'll definitely fit there. Go outside with your tape measure and make sure that it is the correct size. Because you might think the fence you have might be longer or shorter or taller or whatever, and you don't know. So you want to make sure that there's that. And then also, can you get to that space? Is there...
When maintenance is required, how easy is it going to...
shrubs in front of it, or who knows? And if you have a shared fence,
yes,
make sure that your neighbor knows that you're going to put something there.
Right. Is there any specific type of plants that would be good for this, or is it really the imagination?
So you would want to typically, in most places, in the grow zones that we reach here, you want to do annuals for the most part because those are going to do better. So you would figure out, okay, this is a sunny spot. I get full sun all day long, morning to afternoon, and you can go find full sun plants. You can also do shade plants. You can, if you know that it's going to have that shadiness, like maybe just only 6 hours a day of sun. Or if it's like really, really shaded, then you can find different non-flowering plants as well.
And this can be edible or non-edible. For example, if you have a living wall that faces south and you keep the water to it, the nutrients, you can grow herbs. You could grow cherry, Tiny Tim tomatoes. You could grow cucumbers on the lower half. You could do a lot of variations and turn that living wall into a living edible wall, kale, Swiss chard, that type of thing. But you want to be aware of the amount of soil in the pockets or the pots. Some plants are okay with that smaller amount. Other plants do really want a lot of soil to live in.
Absolutely. And yeah, you want to consider, aside from flowering plants, what else you could grow. And another option is something, even if you are in a drier climate or a more arid climate, you can do a little like cactuses or succulents or whatever. That's another option for you. It's not going to necessarily fill out as much and look like a wall of plants, but it is an option.
And we talk about that type of living wall, but we can also talk about what a living wall, such as a barrier or perimeter around your property. There's many different things in which you can add to that, whether that be spruce trees or arborvitaes or shrubs or some type of other green plant matter that can create that barrier. You don't have to have that white picket fence. You can create this shrubbery or hedge around to add more of a natural appeal to your residence.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of different types of shorter shrubs that are fast growing that you can get to even make not so much of a wall, but like a shorter perimeter fencing around, a natural fencing around your yard. I know growing up, we had this bush. I don't even know what kind of bush it was. And we lived on a corner spot, and it definitely prevented a lot of people from just like running through our yard.
Taking the shortcut.
Yeah, taking the shortcut. And the neighbors across the street had a bush like that too. Theirs had prickers on it.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you only make that mistake once.
Right.
But if you're going to do the in-the-ground living wall as a perimeter, a barrier, as a fence, it's going to be an investment because you're going to, pick a number, 8, 9, 10 plants in order to space them correctly. So in the coming years, they grow into one another and create that completely barricade or fence-like area. As they're young, like arborvitaes, for example, you're going to have gaps between them, but you're going to have to give a little time for them to close in.
Another thing to keep in mind with that being said is that if you have a bunch of them, if one of those dies, which does happen,
yes,
then you are going to have this gap here until you replace it, and that replacement catches up with the other one.
The sad part about it is if you have 4 spruce trees, or let's say 6 spruce trees, and the third one dies and you replace it, that third one's always going to be that little dip there because it's never going to catch up with the rest of them. You're always going to have an oddball out there. And unless you spend the extra money in order to find one that is very close to the height that the other ones that have been sitting there for 3 or 4 years are, in order to get that height equalization of the bush or tree, it's going to be a problem. But yeah, there is going to be plants that won't make it. And if you are really somebody who wants to do this, I'm going to plant ahead thing. If you need 8 by 10, plant 2 in the back. So in case one dies, you can just move that baby right up there and it's the same height as everyone else.
That's a smart idea. And just accepting the fact that like nature does whatever nature's going to do. And maybe you put this arborvitae wall up and then you have a backup plan for another fence.
Yeah.
What have you.
And I'm just using arborvitae as an example. There's dozens of different types of shrubbery and trees and flowering plants or grasses in which you can line your perimeter with. And like for grasses, you'll have to cut them back. They will get, with snow, they'll expand out and they'll be in the sidewalk and everything else. But there's an endless list of potential additions in which you can put around your property or down your driveway. If you have a long driveway and you want this very unique aesthetic appeal, you can really go crazy with and rose bushes, that type. There's a lot of different things in which you can create around your property.
Yeah, and another one is lilac bushes. Those are becoming, I feel like they kind of lost their appeal, and now more people are wanting them again.
And they can get extremely big. Arborvitaes can as well. Arborvitaes can get like 20 or 30 foot tall and get very wide.
The important thing here is that they have that thick bush.
Yeah, it's a very thick wood.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's when somebody's trying to build a wall, quote unquote. That's what they want. They want something that...
And this will bring a lot of birds and wildlife in, too.
Absolutely. And it can be a nice enhancement. And also, it's something that you can kind of play around with, too. If you do your research and check out, different resources, you can even get creative and maybe have, like, something that's a variation or something maybe in your front yard versus your backyard. There's a lot of
Every
options.
other plant is a different, red, purple, type
I don't know if I would do that. But
people do all kinds of neat things with
absolutely,
it. Yeah.
But you do take a little bit of a chance there, but it still can apply.
And you can do both of these, but if you're limited, you could do that living wall off a balcony, if allowed, on a small scale, and doing an edible balcony, a living wall off the balcony. So it's a lot of different scenarios in which we can do a living wall that hangs with pockets or brackets in which pots can lock into, or the in the ground fencing or barrier or perimeter markings plants. So it's up to you. But again, the thing is, think ahead, plan ahead, much like we talked about in the first segment. Make a plan out on here's what you want done, and then do your research on here's how much it's going to cost, because with any job, that is the sticking point, is how much is it going to be? Is it going to be worth it? Can I afford it? Don't do something you can't afford in the hopes that you like it, and then it turns out not so much. Well, Holly, weather is warming up, and you will want to protect your garden from various beetles, weevils, borers, including, yes, those Japanese beetles.
And what better way to prevent those pests from destroying your garden than by controlling them while they are the larvae? Grub Gone is an easy way to apply a granular product that can be spread on your turf to successfully control grub invaders. Developed by Phylum Bioproducts from a naturally occurring bacteria, Grub Gone is a non-chemical BT product that specifically targets only certain scarab pests, and it's safe to use around bees and other beneficial insects.
Yes, and if you already have those Japanese beetles flying around, and some of you do, Beetle Gone is the organic water dispersible powder that you can spray directly on your edible plants. Find out more at phyllumbioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.